There is a conversation your kidney doctor almost certainly wants to have with you and almost never gets the chance to. It isn't about your medication dosage. It isn't about your next blood draw. It's a short conversation about what you eat between meals, and it never happens because there's no time for it. A typical nephrology follow-up runs somewhere between 9 and 14 minutes. There's a billing code for adjusting your blood pressure medication. There's a billing code for ordering a kidney ultrasound. There is no billing code for sitting down with you and going through which snacks are quietly protecting your kidneys and which ones are making them work harder. So that conversation gets cut, visit after visit, year after year, even though it may be the single most useful thing your doctor never gets to say. I'm Dr. James Revealio, and after more than 2 decades in internal medicine, I've watched the same scene repeat itself hundreds of times. A patient past 60 sits across from me, creatinine creeping up on the lab report, GFR sliding a little lower every year, and an expression that says they believe there's nothing left in their own hands to do about it. That belief is wrong. Today I'm going to walk you through 5 ordinary snacks, the kind sitting on the shelves of the grocery store you already shop at, and explain exactly why each one matters at the level of the microscopic filters inside your kidneys. I'll show you how to prepare each one so it actually helps instead of quietly working against you. And I'll point out the mistakes I see well-meaning people make every single week without realizing it. But I want to be honest with you before we go any further. I am not going to tell you these 5 snacks will reverse kidney disease or undo years of accumulated damage. If anyone tells you that, close their video immediately. That is not how kidneys work. What I am telling you is that the food you eat between meals, chosen with a little care, genuinely changes how hard your kidneys have to work on any given day. A kidney that works a little less hard today is a kidney with a better chance of holding its ground tomorrow. That is basic physiology, and it lines up with the kidney nutrition guidance published by organizations like the National Kidney Foundation and the National Institutes of Health. If your last creatinine came back above 1.2, if your GFR has slipped below 60 and somebody used the phrase stage 3, or if you've started dreading lab day because every visit seems to bring a worse number with no real explanation attached, this video was made for you. Here's the plan. First, give me 90 seconds to show you what's actually happening inside your kidneys when creatinine rises. Once you understand that mechanism, every one of these 5 snacks will make complete sense on its own. Then we'll go through each snack one at a time. By the end, you'll know exactly what to put in your cart this week, how to prepare it correctly, and you'll understand your own lab report better than you have in years. What rising creatinine actually means. When your muscles do work throughout the day, they produce a waste byproduct called creatinine. That creatinine travels through your bloodstream until your kidneys filter it out and send it into your urine. The filtering itself happens across roughly 1 million microscopic units called glomeruli, tiny clusters of blood vessels that function like sieves, letting waste pass through while holding on to the protein and nutrients your body still needs. When those glomeruli sustain damage, from years of high blood pressure, elevated blood sugar, or the slow natural progression of chronic kidney disease, the filtering process slows down. Creatinine accumulates because it's no longer being cleared as fast as it's produced. Your GFR, or glomerular filtration rate, is simply a measurement of how well those filters are still doing their job. As GFR falls, creatinine rises. They move in opposite directions, like 2 ends of the same seesaw. Here's the part that changes everything. That creatinine number isn't only a verdict on how much damage has already occurred. It also responds, in real time, to 2 things that are largely within your control. First, how much waste and how many difficult to process minerals you're asking your kidneys to filter each day. And second, how much ongoing inflammatory and vascular stress those filters are absorbing. Every one of the 5 snacks I'm about to walk through works on one or both of those levers. Less waste going in, less damage happening to the filters. That's the entire strategy. And your fork is one of the very few places where you actually get a vote. Snack 1. Blueberries, the first snack, comes up in nearly every conversation I have with kidney patients, and when I ask whether they eat it regularly, the answer is almost always no. Blueberries. I understand the hesitation, because I hear the same objection every week. Doctor, berries have sugar, and I'm watching my blood sugar. The real story is more encouraging than that worry suggests. Blueberries are rich in compounds called anthocyanins, the pigments responsible for their deep blue color. Inside the body, anthocyanins function as antioxidants, helping neutralize the unstable molecules known as free radicals. In kidneys that are already under stress, free radical activity tends to run high, and that oxidative stress accelerates scarring inside the glomeruli, gradually reducing their capacity to filter. Kidney nutrition research has repeatedly linked anthocyanin-rich diets to lower markers of oxidative stress in people living with chronic kidney disease. Here's the detail that matters most if you've been told to watch your potassium. A half cup of fresh blueberries contains only about 57 milligrams of potassium. A medium banana contains over 400. If you're in stage 3 and your doctor has flagged potassium as a concern, that gap is enormous. How to eat it. A half cup of fresh blueberries as a morning or afternoon snack. If fresh isn't available, plain frozen blueberries with no added sugar work just as well. Pair them with a handful of unsalted almonds or a thin slice of low-sodium Swiss cheese. The protein slows sugar absorption, so you get the antioxidant benefit without the blood glucose spike. 2 mistakes to avoid. Don't substitute blueberry juice or flavored yogurt. Juicing strips out the fiber, and flavored yogurt usually adds sugar and sometimes phosphate-based thickeners. And skip dried blueberries entirely. Drying concentrates potassium dramatically. Fresh or plain frozen is the only version worth buying. Snack 2. Red bell peppers. The second snack sits right in the produce aisle next to the lettuce, and almost everyone walks straight past it. Red bell peppers. Specifically red, not green, and that color difference matters. A half cup of chopped red bell pepper contains roughly 105 milligrams of potassium. It's low in phosphorus and naturally low in sodium. What makes it genuinely stand out, though, is its vitamin C content. A single red bell pepper contains more vitamin C than an entire orange. People living with kidney disease are at higher risk of vitamin C deficiency, and that deficiency matters directly because vitamin C plays a role in protecting the walls of your blood vessels. In chronic kidney disease, the vessels supplying the glomeruli are already under pressure and inflammatory strain. Red bell peppers also contain quercetin, a flavonoid that early research has connected to reduced inflammatory signaling in kidney tissue. That same slow, silent inflammation I described earlier, the kind that causes no symptoms but scars the filters year after year, is exactly what quercetin appears to help calm. How to eat it: slice into strips and eat raw, or roast at 400 degrees Fahrenheit with a drizzle of olive oil and a dusting of garlic powder until the edges char slightly. Roasting brings out the natural sweetness and makes them far more satisfying as a snack. The mistake to avoid: skip jarred, roasted peppers. Most brands are packed in brine loaded with sodium. Buy them fresh and roast a batch yourself. 15 minutes of effort and a real difference for your kidneys. Snack 3. Air-popped popcorn. The third snack genuinely surprises people. Air-popped popcorn. If you assumed popcorn was off the table with kidney disease, you're not alone. But the numbers tell a different story entirely. 1 cup of plain air-popped popcorn contains roughly 25 milligrams of potassium. That's not a typo. Compare that to a cup of cooked white rice at about 55 milligrams, or a slice of whole wheat bread at over 70. If you're working within a strict potassium budget, popcorn gives you volume, crunch, and satisfaction at an almost negligible cost. It's also low in phosphorus, and when prepared without salt or butter, contributes essentially no sodium. There's a second benefit that tends to get overlooked. Popcorn is a whole grain, and whole grain fiber is increasingly recognized in kidney nutrition research as helpful for managing uremic toxins, waste products that accumulate as kidney function declines. Some of these toxins are actually produced by gut bacteria, and dietary fiber feeds the beneficial bacteria that help reduce certain compounds, particularly indoxyl sulfate. The research is still developing, but the direction is consistent, and popcorn is a low risk, easy way to bring more whole grain fiber into a kidney-restricted diet. How to eat it: air pop the kernels using a popper, or pop them on the stovetop with just a half teaspoon of olive oil. Season with a squeeze of fresh lemon juice, a dusting of garlic powder, or a light sprinkle of nutritional yeast for savory flavor without adding sodium or phosphorus. The mistake to avoid: do not buy microwave popcorn bags. Most contain 200 to 400 milligrams of sodium per serving, along with butter flavorings and sometimes phosphate additives, turning one of the most kidney-friendly snacks available into something working directly against you. Don't undo the gift of popcorn at the seasoning step. If this is useful to you, tell me your age in the comments below, and if you know your most recent creatinine or GFR, include that too. I read every comment, and it directly shapes the videos I make next. And if this channel is helping you make sense of your own labs, tapping subscribe helps this reach more people over 60 who have no one explaining what their numbers actually mean. Now let's continue, because the final two snacks are ones you've probably never connected to kidney health at all. Snack 4, cabbage. The fourth snack is one I recommend, regardless of what stage of kidney disease someone is managing: cabbage. Before you scroll past, because cabbage sounds unremarkable, the chemistry happening inside your body when you eat it is anything but. A half cup of cooked green cabbage contains about 60 milligrams of potassium, low phosphorus, and next to no sodium. Those three numbers together make cabbage one of the safest vegetables available to someone managing kidney disease. As a cruciferous vegetable, cabbage also contains sulfur-based compounds called glucosinolates. When you chop or chew cabbage, those compounds break down into smaller molecules that research has linked to reduced inflammatory activity in kidney tissue, working on that same persistent, low-grade inflammation that scars glomeruli quietly, even when you feel perfectly fine day to day. I want to be careful here and not overstate the evidence. The research connecting cabbage directly to creatinine stabilization is still developing, but the underlying biological mechanism is sound. The food itself is safe, and there is very little downside to including it regularly. Cabbage can also stand in for foods you may have already been told to cut back on. Miss mashed potatoes? Boil cabbage until very soft and mash it with olive oil and fresh herbs. Miss rice? Shred it raw and sauté it lightly in olive oil with garlic. The mistake to avoid: skip prepared deli coleslaw. Most is drenched in dressing loaded with sodium, sugar, and phosphate preservatives. Shred fresh cabbage yourself, toss it with olive oil and lemon juice, and you have a kidney-safe slaw in about 3 minutes. Snack 5. Pineapple, the fifth and final snack, surprises nearly everyone, including a few dietitians who haven't revisited the numbers recently. Pineapple. In a disease where sweet foods often feel off limits, pineapple occupies a category very few fruits can match. A half cup of fresh pineapple chunks contains roughly 90 milligrams of potassium, lower than an apple, lower than an orange, and dramatically lower than a banana. If your potassium budget is tight, pineapple offers genuine sweetness without the potassium penalty, and that matters psychologically as much as medically. When people feel deprived on a kidney-conscious diet, they tend to abandon it altogether. And abandoning the diet does far more damage than any single carefully chosen sweet snack ever could. Pineapple also contains bromelain, an enzyme studied for its anti-inflammatory properties. Research on its direct effect on kidney function is still early, but bromelain's ability to reduce systemic inflammatory markers has been documented across multiple clinical reviews. I'm not telling you pineapple will lower your creatinine. I'm telling you that reducing chronic inflammation is one of the foundational strategies for slowing kidney disease progression, and pineapple is a safe, enjoyable food that supports that effort. How to eat it? Fresh pineapple, cut into chunks, about a half cup as an afternoon snack. Frozen chunks with no added sugar are a fine alternative. Pair with a few unsalted walnuts for anti-inflammatory fats alongside the natural sweetness. 2 mistakes to avoid: skip canned pineapple packed in syrup. Choose pineapple packed in its own juice and drain it thoroughly before eating. And avoid pineapple juice altogether. Juicing removes fiber, concentrates sugar, and delivers a rush of potassium all at once. For your kidneys, whole fruit wins every time. Margaret's story. Let me tell you about a patient. I'll call Margaret, because her experience is exactly why I keep making videos like this one. Margaret came to see me at 64. Her creatinine had been climbing steadily for 3 years. Her GFR had dropped into the mid-40s, and her chart read stage 3 chronic kidney disease. What she told me during our first real conversation about food is something I hear constantly. She was doing everything her doctor told her. She took her medications faithfully. She showed up for every lab draw. But between appointments, she had no idea whether the food on her plate was helping her kidneys or quietly working against them. Somewhere online, she'd read that all fruit was dangerous for kidney patients, so she'd cut it out entirely. She'd stopped snacking altogether out of fear. Her diet had become so restrictive that she was losing muscle, losing energy, and losing the sense of engagement that makes a person actually want to follow through on a health plan. So we did two things. She kept taking every medication her nephrologist had prescribed, because nutrition never replaces medical treatment. And we introduced these 5 snacks gradually, 1 per week. Blueberries with almonds in week 1, bell pepper strips in week 2, air-popped popcorn by week 3, cabbage slaw in week 4, pineapple chunks by week 5. Her creatinine didn't reverse. It didn't drop back to a normal range. What it did was stop climbing. Over 8 months, with medication and these dietary changes working together, her numbers stabilized and her GFR held steady. But the thing she valued most wasn't any single lab result. It was the feeling of finally being a participant in her own care, instead of a bystander watching her health decline 1 appointment at a time. I also want to be honest about the other version of this story. The person who watches a video like this one intends to make changes and never actually starts. They come back a year later with worse numbers and fewer options. In my experience, the difference between those two outcomes is rarely willpower and rarely money. Most of the time, it comes down to this. One person did one small thing this week while the information was still fresh in their mind. The other person waited for a someday that never arrived, putting it all together. Here's the single idea that ties all 5 of these snacks together. Every one of them works by reducing the workload placed on your kidney's filtering units. Blueberries and pineapple calm chronic inflammation that scars those filters over time. Bell peppers deliver essential vitamins without burdening your kidneys with excess potassium or phosphorus. Popcorn gives you volume and satisfaction at a negligible mineral cost. Cabbage supports that same anti-inflammatory effort while standing in for higher potassium foods you may have already given up. Once that clicks, you'll start asking one simple question before you eat anything between meals. Is this making my kidneys work harder, or is this giving them a break? You did not develop kidney disease because you were careless. For most people past 60, it's the slow accumulation of decades. Blood pressure, blood sugar, aging blood vessels. Long before there was any reason to worry. But the workload your kidneys carry starting today is something you genuinely can influence. Make a short grocery list tonight. Fresh blueberries, 2 or 3 red bell peppers, a bag of plain popcorn kernels, 1 head of green cabbage, and a fresh pineapple or a bag of frozen chunks. Pick just 1 to start with. The simplest place to begin is swapping your afternoon snack for a half cup of blueberries and a handful of almonds. Do that for 1 week. You'll have already started. Keep every appointment with your kidney specialist. Keep getting your blood work done. Know your numbers. These snacks work alongside your medical treatment, never instead of it. One final note. If you're living with stage 4 or stage 5 kidney disease, or if your potassium levels tend to run high, do not change your diet based on any video alone. Bring this video to your nephrologist or a registered renal dietitian and build a plan together based on your own labs. Your kidneys have worked for you every second of every day since before you were born. Tonight, you have the chance to start working for them. Choose 1 snack and buy it this week. And tell me in the comments, how old are you and what was your most recent creatinine or GFR? That tells me exactly what to make for you next. Take good care of yourself and take good care of your kidneys. This has been Dr. James Revealio for Science of Wellness.